What's the biggest challenge? What are some of the biggest challenges in this field?
The biggest challenge, I would say, obviously, I think you touched upon in the initial part of the conversation, right? I think the volume, the complexity, the variability of data that exists, I feel provides an overwhelming challenge on dealing with these different kinds of data requires a little bit of different kind of handling. So I think doing that is a challenge. I do feel if evolution of cloud and hybrid ecosystems and those things provide its own challenge in these modern data ecosystems that we are building. Obviously, the fundamental issue in engineering is handling quality and complexity. Like, how do you keep data quality up to date? And there's a little bit of reliance on other parties as in terms of where the data originates, etc. I think so. Managing that quality in end to end, right from the production to actual delivery for some of these capabilities, that's an issue. Infrastructure scalability, technology landscape changing. I think these are other technical challenges that exist. I think a lot of newer things newer technologies coming. How do you keep up pace with it?
Mm-hmm.
And last, I would say, is governance and compliance. I think, as you probably hear a lot, and a lot of these corporations struggle in terms of staying compliant. How do you manage this data? How do you keep it protected? How do you abide by some of the principles that or regulations that they need to comply by? I think that's also fundamental to engineering challenges. But all these are like well known, well talked about challenges. But when I think about it, from a core challenge, and all these are providing challenges, but the fundamental challenge I feel, which is in today's day and age, speed and agility by which you need to do data engineering so that you're able to enable the business outcomes, because the reliance on these data solutions, the iteration, the adaptability to maintain this business competitive advantage is becoming more and more critical. So I feel all these sort of sum it up. I feel that speed and agility to how to do data engineering the right way, the horizontal or core to all these specific challenges that I talked about.
Yeah, and I've definitely like I see speaking to many leaders. Obviously, data quality is a massive problem. It's come up many times discussing with them. So, what is it? Just do you think it's just because it's so complex? There's so many different applications, tools involved. Is that the is it going to get more and more complex? Do you think, as because obviously more and more data is going to be entering, or do you think there's going to be new ways to do? Because everyone's on their own data journey, aren't they? So is it going to get easier? Or
I do feel it has gotten easier. I think we have made advancements in technologies and capabilities. I feel if I think about in last 4 or 5 years, I feel we've made pretty good strides. I think there was a little bit of, I don't want to use the word confusion, but I think it's a little bit of uncertainty and where these ecosystems are going. When things like Hadoop came into the ecosystem, traditional data warehouses, where do we transition? Some people had this philosophy around, moving to Hadoop and all. Then cloud was into the mix. I feel that space is settling in. A lot of people are settled on what they want to do in this space from an ecosystem perspective. Plus the tools and technologies with things like LLMs and coming into the space, I do see that our ability to process and leverage data is getting easier. So I feel in that sense the ecosystem will get easier. I think what will get complex in my mind is the ask from a business perspective and the various ways in which companies would now be creative about leveraging this for their advantage. I think would make it complex in understanding the data itself and how do we enable. From an engineering perspective, I see that as a challenge more than the infrastructure.
So what do you mean from getting access to the data?
Access, understanding. I think as we understanding how this data gets used is very critical when you're engineering solutions.
Mm.
And I think and as the business problems get complex, I think being in pace with it so that you have a lot of tool in your toolbox, right? Figuring
Mm.
out which to use to solve the problem. So the tools are no longer the problem, but picking the right tool is important. And for that, understanding what am I going to do with or what am I enabling becomes a little bit critical, I feel. And I see that a lot of interesting ideas being thrown around to leverage and how do we move the needle on them in speed and with agility. I feel is probably the more bigger challenge than the infrastructure, which I felt 5 years back it was more of an infrastructure challenge. The business challenge was there, but the infrastructure challenge was bigger. I feel that's kind of
Mm.
solved in this
So I
market right now.
guess, so I guess remain to the on to stick to the business objective really, because I spoke to I think it was, another business leader about their data warehouse, and they changed during the implementation. They changed the data platform 4 times, so it's obviously that's going to drag time. So again, the speed
Yeah,
and access to that quality is going to take it. It's just going to be delayed, isn't it? So I
yeah,
guess you need to just remain to your business objective, really.
exactly. I think a lot of these decisions have to be made with business priorities on the forefront, and
Mm.
not saying that tech priorities or the engineering excellence should take a back seat, but how do we make progress on these engineering items like a platform change or in context to keeping business objective in mind and making sure the outcomes or the benefits are aligned, and we no longer have the luxury which probably I've done some of these projects in my past life where we took 6 months or 1 year to do a platform change, right? Because it was a massive change, like I want to adopt cloud, so next 1 year my team is going to work on cloud adoption. I don't think that's going to fly in today's day and age. I
Mm.
think so. The question is going to be how do we continuously iterate and provide business outcome while
Mm.
making sure you make some of these changes. And I do also feel like I think which you touched upon is the the technology advancement has happened in this space that
Mm.
some of these no longer take weeks and months. I feel that I think that's also there. I think hybrid cloud and hybrid approaches, I think which were not very common. I think but
Yeah.
are now are out there. So that also makes it easier.
Yeah, definitely touch on like multi-cloud is massive now because yeah, and even obviously with my job with doing hiring, obviously now you're getting data engineering roles where it's not just Azure or AWS or GCP, it's they want multi-cloud experience now, and obviously it just adds a lot more challenges to obviously skill set's got to be more diverse, and it's obviously there's not a lot of people that will have all that experience because they would have done one flavor or the other.
Exactly. Yep. You're spot on that.
So what I guess obviously with this, previously was the boom was more building data science models, hiring data scientists. Now, why